One team that does $105 million annually, 3.1 million in GCI. He's been the number one team in Cincinnati for 11 years running, and he has graciously agreed to join us today. Welcome, Peter. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. And thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Have you?
What's that?
We're very excited to have you, and again, we really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, and thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's kind of fun to be here. Gosh, I got to stare at my face while I'm talking. I still am not used to that after 3 years since COVID happened. It's fun to be here. I actually grew up in New Jersey, just outside of Montclair. So I like being back with my Jersey people. So thanks for having me on here. I appreciate it.
Oh, that's very close to where we are.
Where are you guys?
I mean, we're five different market centers, but all around the Bergen County area, which is, maybe depending on the group, 30 minutes from Montclair.
Okay, cool. Oh, here we go. I got gallery effect. That's much better. And I love that people are actually showing up with their cameras on. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate that. It's tough when you go into a group and everyone's got their cameras off. You feel like you're talking to a blank wall. So thanks for that. I appreciate it.
When you have a good-looking group like this, they want to brag. They want to show up on camera.
I get it, man. We got some good-looking realtors on this call. In to win. All right. So normally I teach this class over the course of 75 minutes. So I'm going to see if I can smush it into 45 minutes. So we're going to cut off a full half hour out of this content. So I'm going to move quickly if that's okay with you guys.
Sure.
And then I'll stick around for a little bit after 2 o'clock, after 3 o'clock for anyone that has some additional questions. My name's Peter. Yeah, we did 105 million in volume. That was with our horrible low average sales price. That means that we had to close 394 units. I don't know why we couldn't have found 6 more freaking clients to hit 400, but so be it. I'm also Keller Williams University master faculty. And so I love teaching. And one of the things that, well, let me back up a second. I should do a couple of disclaimers. Number one, we're not going to talk about commission, and we're not going to talk about different kinds of value propositions. That's exactly what triggered this lawsuit in the first part, nor am I an attorney. So I'm going to limit this conversation to how do you go about structuring a buyer consultation that yields a signed buyer-broker agreement. So Anna P., I might be stealing some of your thunder here. I'm sorry, I didn't realize.
Maybe I'll steal yours.
Okay, great. I'll send you all my stuff afterwards. And Judith, I might go into Judith's a little bit. So I'm sorry, guys. Don't shoot me as the messenger on this one. So let's talk about real quickly kind of some of the rules, and then I want to move past that. The first one is we all know now that a buyer must sign a buyer-broker agreement with us before we show a property. In that agreement, we've got to have 2 things in there: what we charge, as well as how long this representation agreement will last for. And the third point we want to make clear is that whatever, as the rules stand today, and people are already trying to figure out how to work within this rule or find some loopholes, but as this settlement is proposed, whatever you define as your fee, as your charge, your value, you cannot charge more than that, even if the listing agent is offering more compensation. So my point here is we want to make sure that we're doing the best job possible during the needs analysis and the value presentation to capture as much value as possible, as much commission as possible. We can always go backwards, but we can't increase it based on what another agent is offering. So a data point we're thinking about is this: 71% of consumers in 2023 worked with the first real estate agent that they met. 71%. I suspect that number will go up over the next 2 years with this new climate. And so the first step is getting to that showing as quickly as possible and getting a buyer agreement signed as quickly as possible. The stakes will rise a little bit for those of us who understand the importance of the concept of speed to lead. Being fast matters, and being able to present a good needs analysis and value presentation becomes really important. So let's start with just a basic fundamental truth of how consumers make purchasing decisions. When it comes to making purchases from salespeople for products or services, consumers want to buy from people that they trust. And the more expensive the purchase, the more they need to trust the individual that they're purchasing from. The entire game of signing buyer-broker agreements boils down to this. It's one, that is to say, you win the consumer by earning their trust. That's all this is. The person that first earns the trust of the consumer is the one that gets the buyer-broker agreement signed. You could actually exit the Zoom right now because everything I teach you after this is just how to go and do that. But the bottom line is the most fundamental granular point is this is all about earning trust quickly. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, when it comes to earning trust, there are two filters that consumers will evaluate whether or not they want to buy from you. The first one is how warm you are, how warm they perceive you to be. And the second one is how competent they perceive you to be. Now, in the world of consumer choices, which is more important? How warm they feel you are, how much they can relate to you, or how competent they believe you are?
Sounds like that's a live
Competent.
question.
What's that?
Competent.
We've got
Competent.
warmth. 3 people are saying warmth. Yeah, that's the answer, guys. It's warmth. There may be some people that believe competency is, and there be a small sliver of that population that do lead with competency, but the vast majority of consumers buy from people that they find are warm, that they can relate to. And so that's the game that we're really playing first. You know, I think about when we do our listing presentations, we immediately want to jump into our 15-point marketing plan. But before we do that, we're walking around the house and talking about how cute their kids are in the photos and petting the dog, because that's how you establish warmth. And we got to do the same thing now in a different capacity, in a different way on the buyer consult. So let's talk about how we earn trust. Let's talk about how we earn warmth, how we establish warmth. The first one is by quickly establishing rapport. And then as soon as we can thereafter, getting into a place of empathy, being able to feel and understand where our clients are coming from. We're going to talk a lot about how to do that today. And so I'll come back to rapport later. I want to explain this concept of empathy and how we earn it quickly. Empathy, guys, is primarily about listening. So in order to listen, we have to ask questions and we need to just shut up. And I know as salespeople, we all want to be able to speak first, but the reality is you just got to shut up, ask questions, and listen. As you're listening, one of the most important fundamental sales skills that you can do is repeat back to your prospect what you hear them saying, and then affirm that early and often. If they start getting emotional, which happens a lot if you're doing a good job of actively listening and affirming, they might bring some emotion to it. If you have a similar experience where you can actually empathize, where you've been in that position, it's appropriate to briefly share how you've been in their shoes and what happened to you. Now, this is not an opportunity to vomit all over somebody your sad story, but if you are able to share some experience you've had that relates to what they're going through in this point in time, that's a fast way to get to empathy. And always when you're asking questions, and I'm going to role play this for you guys later on, you always want to go deeper. Tell me more about that, go on, or tell me more about that, or go on, or what else? Those are the kinds of statements or questions that get people to give you a little bit more information and get a little bit deeper and connect to the emotional driver of what's triggering their move. So any basic questions, comments, or thoughts about the concept of establishing warmth or why warmth comes before competence? Pretty basic right now, right? Stay with me for like 5 more minutes. I swear I'm going to get to the good stuff. We just got to cover some of these fundamentals first, okay? Somebody nod and tell me you're with me. Thank you, Jose. I appreciate it. Okay, cool. Thanks, guys. Great. Let me teach you how to structure a buyer consultation. And Elizabeth, at this point in time, I'd like to share my screen for just a little bit, if that's okay. See if I can do that.
Yeah, you should be able to. There you go.
Yes, I can. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. We won't do this for long, but I'm just going to give you a couple slides here to establish a couple ideas. The first thing is I just want to establish that what I'm going to share with you guys works. This is, for those of you who understand CSU or are familiar with it, this is our company's sales statistics from 2023. What you can see in the box in the red is that we went on 519 buyer consultations. Of those 519, we signed 497 of them on a buyer broker agreement. Again, as a business owner, my first question is, why couldn't we find 3 more people that were going to sign the agreement? But it's okay. We'll go with the 497. There are many ways to do a buyer consultation. This is the only way we know. And I know that if you do this, you're going to have a 95.8% conversion rate of appointment kept to broker agreement signed based on what we did last year. So hopefully you guys will find value in this. So here it is. Here's how you structure it, exactly how we do it. Step 1, get some baseline rapport going. Step 2, you're going to do your needs analysis at this point. And this is all about active listening and empathy. This is actually where you're going to win or lose the buyer broker agreement. Step 3 or 2.5, really, if it's a first-time buyer, you got to walk them through that process. That's really more procedural than anything else. Step 3, once you've established warmth, which is really what you're doing in the needs analysis, you're then going to establish your competence and present your value proposition. You'll talk about how you get paid, what you charge, and then we do what salespeople do. We isolate any objections that there may be and close for the signed buyer broker agreement. This is it. This is what you do. By the way, if you guys are interested in getting a copy of this presentation, you don't need to do screen grabs or anything like that. At the end of this or halfway through this class, I'm going to ask you for your email address. If you share that with me, I'll go ahead and send you a PDF of this of these slides so that you can refer back to it in the future. Okay, so how do you establish baseline rapport? We don't have time to go into this today, but just as an overview, it's pretty basic stuff. You want to match pace of speech, tonality, body language, right? Mirror and match. Listen for frequently used phrases that the buyer uses. For example, if the guy is talking about a man cave or she's talking about a she shed, you want to integrate that language back into how you communicate with them. Look for common communication patterns, or if you're familiar with a DISC, start using the DISC to your advantage to communicate with them in a way that they're receptive to. Start doing your mirroring and matching as long as it's authentic. That means don't practice on them. Practice that skill ahead of time. And then we get to move to the needs analysis. This title is like how to sign up. The class is like how to sign a buyer broker agreement. The reality is we can't actually do that because we can't talk about what each of us charges. I don't know what your value proposition is that's unique to you and your brokerage or your sales team. But I do know that the buyer broker agreement is won or lost on this step. And that's what we're going to spend pretty much the rest of our time talking about. And the needs analysis is not about you. It's about the buyer. And it's all about listening and establishing empathy. Here's how we're going to structure that. I'm going to go through the top 3 criteria for my client. I'm going to talk about what the best timing is for them, how they prefer to communicate, what expectations they have of me. And then I'm going to do a transition statement into the competence and value proposition part of the buyer consultation. This slide right here is what we're going to spend most of time on today. So I'm going to do a role play. Elizabeth, I'm going to need a volunteer to role play with me. And I'm actually going to showcase for you guys how we do the buyer consultation. And there's three phases of it. But first, let's just assume that I've established some sort of baseline motivation, maybe on the phone before I booked the appointment. I know that they need a 4-bedroom, 2.5 in, let's say, Bergen County, and that I've gone through the motion of having them sign the Consumer Guide to Agency Relationships. And since I'm only role-playing with one person, let's just assume that the buyer is one person, not 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have them, after I do some like intro stuff, I'm going to have them identify their top 3 must-have features for their new home. And you'll notice I'm going to ask the same question 3 times for each one of these criteria. What's important to you about that? What will that do for you? What will that ultimately do for you and your family? After that, I'm going to have them prioritize them. I'm going to go through timing and have them identify where they are in the timeline, understand how they prefer to communicate, what expectations of me that they have. I'm then going to do kind of a trial close and get them used to signing with me. And then I'm going to move into my transition statement. And that transition statement goes from them to me going into my presentation around what I do to help them and what I charge. Questions about any of that before we get started? Okay. Here's my transition statement, and this will make more sense. We position the entire buyer consultation around providing a 5-star experience, and you'll hear me introduce that during the role play. My transition statement goes like this. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, now that I'm crystal clear on what a 5-star experience means to you, I'd like to share with you some of the things at the Chabris Group that we feel also creates a 5-star experience. Can I share those with you now? That's my transition statement to go into kind of like the competence part and the presentation, the value presentation part of the buyer consultation. Questions about that? No? Different charges for different... Oh, we got a bunch of chats on here. Okay. Everybody's dropping their email. Give me your email later, guys. I can't do it all right now. But I love that everybody cares. That's awesome. All right. So, Elizabeth, can I get someone to role play with me?
Yeah, we had 2 people volunteer, Bruce and Scott. So
okay. Who's it going to be, Bruce or Scott?
Sounds like it's me.
All right, Bruce. You ready, buddy?
Absolutely.
So, Elizabeth, are you able to highlight just Bruce and I so that we can just Bruce and me? Perfect.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to pause a couple times through to make sure you guys are tracking with what we're doing here. Okay, ready to get started, Bruce?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Hey, Bruce, I want to really thank you for joining me today and taking some time to talk about you and your home search and making sure I'm crystal clear on what it is that you want out of this move. So we just finished signing the Consumer Guide to Agency Relationships. And Bruce, can you agree with me that time is our most valuable asset?
That's definitely an agreement.
Right on. Well, here's the deal, man. Our mission statement is to provide relentless representation and an exceptional experience to our consumers. That's a lot of syllables. So what I say is really, we just want to create a 5-star experience for you. And so for me to do a 5-star experience, I really need to do a deep dive with you on what you're looking for and what's important to you about that. What I've found, Bruce, is that because time is so valuable for all of us, I'd rather invest 60 minutes with you right now and show you 5 homes than kind of wing this part of the process in a 5-minute period and wind up showing you 60 homes, because that sounds like a nightmare to me, and I'm sure it does to you as well.
Yes, I appreciate you letting me down now instead of disappointing me later.
Oh, I'm getting out scripted by this guy already. Okay, cool. So, Bruce, I'm clear on what you want. 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath in Bergen County. Let's go a little bit deeper than that, Bruce. What are the top 3 non-negotiable things that you must have in your new home?
My new home, I must have a walk-up attic.
A walk-up attic.
The
Okay.
in-laws, they come over and they disturb the peace on the ground floor, so I need a walk-up for them. I don't want to stick in the basement because I still have care and love. So they get to walk up. So that's one. I'd like a yard, and I'd like a detached 2-car garage. I have a little hobby in the wintertime when it gets wintry, so I like to go into the garage, utilize that space. The last point would be is I'd also like a bathroom, a full bathroom on the first floor. That's because of family needs. That would be better for my next step here if I'm moving.
So I got 4 things there. If you had to choose just 3, Bruce, which would the top 3 be?
You can knock off the bathroom on the ground floor.
Okay. All right, let's talk about each of those. The first one you mentioned was the walk-up attic, specifically because you don't want in-laws interrupting. Do you want them disturbing life on the first floor? Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, they can go upstairs. I figured that's a better way of saying, here's your privacy than the basement.
Okay. Well, versus the basement. Now I understand. Okay. What's important to you giving your in-laws some privacy upstairs instead of in the basement?
More so important for myself to have privacy than them to have privacy.
Okay. Got it. So what's important to you about that privacy? I think I know, but I don't want to make any assumptions here.
Sometimes there's disagreements between, and having some personal space in between that's also comforting still. With the view of the yard outside seems fitting.
And Bruce, if we can remove some of those disagreements or create some safe spaces between you and your in-laws, what does that ultimately do for you and your family?
It makes harmoniousness throughout. So it allows us to have our own space, but also to come together in the kitchen and do that. So they're from overseas and out of town. So when they come in like a hurricane.
Okay, got it. Now, quick pause on the role play. At this point in time, I'm trying to get into relationship with Bruce as much as possible. So I want to know where his wife is from, where they're coming from overseas, how do they use their house right now? Give me some stories about how there's been conflict in the past. Like, there's so much material there to work with. And so I would take as much time as I can to go into all that with Bruce. But we're not going to do that in the interest of saving everybody's time.
Yeah. And you
so
did
Bruce,
a nice
that's great.
job.
I got it. What's that?
You did a very nice job. You connected, and I felt it was genuine coming across. Obviously, it's made up from my end, and I'm having some fun with it.
Yeah.
Actually, I felt genuineness and care from that end. I received what you're trying to have us comprehend in that portion.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so Bruce, I understand the walk-up attic and the importance of it. Tell me about the yard. What's important to you about having that yard?
It's the safe space. You work all day, got the family, kids. When I have some alone time, or if I want to have the buddies over for a poker game, it allows me that space to have that. It's important for my family and our functionality. I always think some individual time is also great because then you come together and you're more appreciative of all of that as well. Plus, I have some personal hobbies. I like tools and wood shop, and I've got a wood making area that I have this personal hobby for, so it's important to me.
Okay, and just to make sure we're talking about the yard and having a safe space in the yard, or are we talking about the detached two-car garage?
Kind of both. They kind of lend into each other. Just
Okay.
a space outside, to have some friends, but also it leads into the interior, so it could be both.
Okay, so that safe space when it comes to the backyard is a place for you to hang out with your buddies. And it's also a place like if you need to separate a little bit from the rest of the tribe, you've got a place where you can do that and everybody can kind of maintain some harmony, right?
Exactly. And also just put some of the tools in there. It doesn't have to be in the house. And I'm not, carving wood and doing those things inside with children. I'm isolated outside.
Okay.
It'll help out with safety as well.
So Bruce, as it relates to the yard specifically, the safe space I understand in terms of like actual physical safety for your family and the power tools and stuff. But what I also think I heard was a place to hang out with your buddies and a place to get to sort of detach when things get a little heated inside the house. Did I hear that right?
Not necessarily focused on the heated. It's more
Okay.
of a laughing, kind of a smile in that. It's more so on a Saturday afternoon if I'm doing my wood shop and a couple of friends come over and we want to hang out. That's a space that we can do it. We're not interrupting in the kitchen with the family and kids
Okay.
do.
So this is the reason this is important to you is it's a place for you to hang out with your buddies on the weekend or when you're pursuing some of your projects, some of your hobbies.
Yeah, just more side item. It's a want. And if I'm going to be moving from where I am now, that's something I want in that next home.
Tell me about that. How will the addition of that yard versus where you are now, what does that ultimately do, not just for you, but you and your family?
Gives us that outdoor space that we're seeking. We're currently in an apartment, and that's not. We don't have that ability to walk outside of a glass sliding door into a yard. So it gives us the ability to have that and take the next step into a single family home.
Cool. I love that. Okay. Goal number 3 or must have number 3 was the detached two-car garage. And I think I already heard you. Part of what's important to you about that, Bruce, was one, like getting all your wood shop gear out of the house so it doesn't like consume the basement. And making
That's
sure
what I'm concerned with. Yeah, having that separate space for that equipment. It's been a problem internally here with a different bedroom. So I promise that if we're moving, that's going to be separate. So it is important in that facet.
Well, if you're promising it, that means there's somebody else as part of the decision making. So is it? Yeah.
The other half is certainly the other part of this decision, which is pushing me to talk to you about that.
So if I can make a gross assumption here, part of what's important to that detached two-car garage is keeping the peace with the boss.
That's correct.
Okay, smart man. I love it. Happy spouse, happy house, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And we're both compromising in certain ways, giving and taking as well. So it's worked out.
Okay, got it.
Hey, Peter.
Yes.
For one quick second, not to make this more complicated, my mistake. I thought we would have 2 role players here, and Scott, who's one of our top agents, actually pushed back a listing presentation to join. So I don't know if there's any way to involve him maybe have him do the next section.
Yeah, 100%. I'd love to do that. Absolutely.
Right. Thank you so much.
That's cool. We're almost at that point as well, Scott. I'm going to have Bruce prioritize his needs and then we'll switch.
No worries, you got it.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, great. So Bruce, keeping the peace, definitely important. What does that ultimately do for you and your family?
Allows me to work with a clear mind, allows me to have the weekends where I'm not thinking about things with them and, having some enjoyment time to myself. Like it said and started, time is the only thing that we don't get more of. So having some downtime when I'm not working is important.
I can appreciate that. So let me just share with you what I heard here. Number 1 is the walk-up attic, a place for your in-laws to go upstairs instead of putting them in the basement. And that really is about maintaining harmony when they come to visit you guys. The second one is the yard. And that was a place for you to really kind of create a better lifestyle for your family versus being pent up in the apartment. And the third one, Bruce, was having that separate two-car garage. And that was for two things. One is just maintaining raw safety for your family. But the second one also was kind of give you a space to recharge on the weekends. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you hit it on the head.
Okay, cool.
If you can find that, I would be very appreciative.
Okay, I'm clear on what I need to do here. Let me take this one step further, Bruce. What's your understanding of the market right now?
I read headlines. Markets are definitely hot. I know that I'm going to be competing.
Yeah, and I think part of that, Bruce, if I have your permission to be direct, is that we're probably going to have to compromise a little bit when it comes to finding your home. And so one of the exercises I want to ask you is of these three components, right? The walk-up attic, the backyard, or a detached two-car garage. What is the most important non-negotiable of those three criteria?
Walk-up attic.
Walk-up, okay, that's priority number one, maintaining harmony when the in-laws are in town.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Overseas, there's a whole bunch of them. It becomes a problem. I'd sacrifice that. However, I really don't want to sacrifice any of this. If I'm going to move from where I am right now today, the compelling answer for you would be is if I don't hit those, I'm not sure that I'm ready to move. Is it hitting those is possible in this market?
Bruce, that is all a question of how much money you want to spend. Certainly, we can find these things. It's either going to be paying a premium if it's move-in condition, or it's going to be comfortable with the idea of rolling up your sleeves and taking something that has all the right components, walk up, yard, detached two-car garage, and making it your own over time. And that choice is completely up to you. What we will do is we'll finish this exercise. And then after we've gone through this part of our consultation, Bruce, we can actually pull up the MLS here at the conference room table, and you and I will look at what inventory looks like in your price range, and you can make the determination on whether or not this is the right time for you to buy. Fair enough?
Not sure if I want to come into the office for a consultation. A lot of agents just, kind of shoot me an email with some properties, and, I'm pretty competent. I think that I'd be able to handle that myself.
Sorry, I'm assuming that we're at the table right now at a buyer consultation.
Oh yeah, I thought I was role playing. My apologies.
No, we are. The role play that we're doing is I booked the appointment. I'm sitting down with you. Sorry, I should have made that clear to everybody.
Yeah, that sounds good. I would like to review some properties to see. Ultimately, if I can't hit this, I'm not sure if I'm going to purchase.
Well, that's why you're here, right? We're going to educate you, and you get to make the decision on what's right for you and your family.
Thank you.
So I'm clear walk-up attic is like non-negotiable. If we could get one more, Bruce, would it be the backyard or would it be the detached two-car garage?
The detached two-car.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. All right. Let's pause right there for a second. Questions, comments, or thoughts about going 3 deep with Bruce?
I have a question.
Yes, Gina.
From the Gill Group. So I hear what you're saying. You're doing a consultation with him. I get the idea of trying to, come across as empathetic and all of that. The market that we deal in is I think a little less so concerned with that. And I think right now my question to you is, how are you getting these people in to speak with you? It's all fine and dandy. We're role playing. He's sitting in your office. Buyers themselves have to be retrained in this market, right? This is something they're not normally, as a listing agent, sure, I go into somebody's house, they're calling me and I have to go look at the property. It's easier to get a sit down. How do you get a sit down with somebody as a new buyer that you're meeting, let's just say anywhere, but at an open house? How do you close that deal now?
Well, I certainly wouldn't ask for the appointment right away, not in today's market. And it's a great question, Gina. I think what I would do in that scenario is I'd go show them 3 houses. The data tells us that the first agent that somebody shows 3 houses to is the one that they work with.
Okay, so going back now, we're going to be mandated to sign these buyer's agencies agreements before we take anybody out. So how are you going to do that?
Well, I think, Gina, the right move there, and I can't speak for your board or how laws are run in New Jersey. Our anticipation is that we're going to have a limited buyer broker agreement limited to the next 3 houses that they show. So they commit to working us with 3. At the end of 3 showings, we're going to say, hey, it's going to be almost like a short-term interview. And at the end of those 3 showings, we're going to ask them to sit down and talk to us about what we do. We should have enough rapport and build some baseline trust that they should see the value in doing that.
And you can also do a 1-day agreement too.
Sure, you can do a 1 showing agreement.
Yeah, it's simple to do that. You meet them on the fly, agree, I have to have this signed before I enter this house. It's only allotting to this property, this specific one.
Is that allowed? Is that allowed going forward as of July 1st?
We've used that in the past, Scott.
Yeah,
You know,
not the
school
same.
We're not talking about the past. We're talking about going forward as
Going forward, yeah.
and you do have a mission in there. So how do you go through that conversation?
Yeah, well, these are all great questions, Gina, and I have to balance the content that I promised versus solving for this circumstance. All I would say is all of us get to choose how we want to do a short-term buyer representation agreement. You get to choose what your value is, and you get to choose whatever criteria and however long and for whatever amount of money that you want to show them the property. I believe we're going to start seeing more and more referral-driven traffic and less internet kind of traffic. The referred buyers should want to sit down with you at the front end of the process. If you're talking about an open house lead, or a sign call or an internet lead, yeah, you're probably going to have to run down and show them a couple houses first. And we all get to make that choice of what we want to charge for that initial showing. Maybe you do one showing at one rate and then have a conversation about scheduling a time to go see a couple more. I'm sorry, I can't give a more direct or comprehensive answer than that.
I appreciate. I know why, you're brought on to do something. I think the questions that are in most of the people's minds on this call are what I'm asking. And I know that we really don't have any clear indications as to what we're supposed to do with this. So, but thank you.
Yeah, and it's going to be the Wild West for all of us. None of us know, right? That's the fun thing, is that we all get to experiment with this.
Can I mention, can I raise something?
Yeah, Scott.
I think what you're doing there is one piece of the puzzle, one piece of your presentation. Like the tactical empathy with, was it Chris Vaughn or something? If they saw the full picture, like I watched, I just started coaching with Tom Ferry this week. And I got to prepare for what for some reason I thought like Bruce and I are going to role play, or we get role play with you. So I wanted to make sure I kind of sounded like I knew what I was talking about. So I went to a presentation of one of theirs that came through last week. And in order to get someone comfortable enough to want to sign the agreement, right? What you're doing is in line with getting to understand their concerns, building rapport, and going through value, and then basically tying it around a bow, and then getting to the agreement. So like by the time you get to the agreement, they're comfortable because they understand what you're going to do for them, right? Basically how you're represented, what you've done for, I'll probably just turn your own presentation on you. But that to me is what seems to be the way we're going to get this thing signed, is a presentation showing how we're adding value. Like when I printed out to prepare for like a role play, like I thought you were going to ask me questions like, hey, if you're the buyer and I'm convincing you to sign, I was going to talk about the 25 different things I do during the transaction, that you can't possibly do, and also that if they don't sign, they don't have any representation. Anything they say to the listing agent has to be reported back to the seller. Things like that. Things that where they understand that they don't have their vested interest covered.
Yeah, and I think 100%, Scott. And I think I think that maybe this. Well, let me keep it on point here.
Yeah.
Today, Gina, to your point, people invite us into their homes to formally apply for the job of representing them. I believe 18 months from now, people will be formally inviting us to interview for the job of representing them. The game is going to change, and the people that understand how to apply these skills now are the ones that are going to convert. And the other thing I would say is, yes, buyers don't want to talk to real estate agents. They want to see houses. And later on my presentation, I tell you exactly that. So go show the house, do a limited representation. But at the end of it, we all know, like when you show a home, they're either writing an offer or you're rescheduling the next showing. And at the end of showing a buyer a limited number of properties, you're going to say, great, now is the time for us to go reschedule or schedule our next round of showings. Let's meet at my office and go over a couple of things before we go out and shop. And I think that's going to work
I liked your idea, and I know, all market centers are different, and maybe Al can answer this question at the end. I'm sorry, I'm throwing you off, your thing here,
This
but
is the question everybody has. We should talk about it.
yeah, I mean, and
Sure.
I mean, I think it is, but I do like the idea of, 3 houses and then we move on. But again, we are already seeing issues with buyers' payouts, buyers agents payouts.
Yeah, and I think that's why this becomes so important. Is you've got to
Right.
get into relationship
Right.
and then set expectations and then present your value. Otherwise, you're not going to sign these things at the fee that you want to command. Someone's
Right.
been waiting patiently. Vanita Mulchandani.
I just want to ask, can one buyer sign with a different agents?
Not if it's exclusive, no.
Because if I'm signing a buyer and tomorrow he goes with somebody else, how do I know like what he's doing it?
This is a question we all have.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. All right, let's get Scott on the role play because he was good enough to postpone a listing appointment. Scott, I want to make sure that you get your opportunity. Bruce, can I switch to Scott here for the next phase?
Absolutely.
Okay. So Scott, we've talked about what's important to you. The walk-up attic. Number 2 is the detached 2-car garage. And the third one is the backyard. If I could raise my magic wand here, Scott, what would be the perfect time for you to move into that next property?
Ideally in the next 8 to 12 weeks.
In the next 8 to 12 weeks. Terrific. Now I would find out what's important about that. So Scott, when we think about the home buying process, I like to think of it as a marathon, right? And there's 3 distinct stages. When you first start the marathon, everyone's bunched up and you can't even jog. All you can do is walk. You stroll, right? And then there's the jogging phase. And then at the end, you sprint for the best time possible. And that's the way it is with us. When you're in the strolling phase, you're basically just looking at open houses, getting to know neighborhoods, and getting your pre-approval in order. If you're interested in new construction, Scott, now is the time for us to take a look during that strolling stage, because sometimes it can take a little bit longer to close on that while they're building the property. Then comes the jogging phase. That's when we're actively looking at real estate. You've got your pre-approval in place. And that is typically a 2 to 4 week time period where we're looking at real estate. At that point in time, you and I may be speaking pretty frequently, and I'll need you to make seeing real estate a priority in your time because it's so hard to get into properties before properties sell so quickly. We've got to move quickly in order to get you into a house. And then finally is the sprint, and that's when you get under contract, and that's where you and I may be speaking multiple times a day. You're packing, you're doing your loan, you're doing the underwriting for your loan, and I'm helping make sure that we maintain all of our timelines and all of the paperwork. Does that make sense?
Sure, that's straightforward.
So the sprint phase, Scott, takes about 45 calendar days to close if you're borrowing money with the bank. And the shopping phase takes somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks. So conservatively said, Scott, it takes about 10 weeks from the time you start shopping to the time that you start closing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So if you want to be in a home in the next 8 to 12 weeks, Scott, what phase would you say that you're in? The strolling phase, the jogging phase, or the sprinting phase?
Somewhere between the jogging and sprinting.
Yeah, I would say so. I think we've got a week or 2 if you want to explore a new construction option. But after that, we should probably get pretty serious about getting you into some homes. That's exactly right. Well, terrific. So let's talk about communication preferences, Scott. Are you a phone guy? Are you a texting guy? Or do you prefer email?
Texting and email works.
Okay, terrific. So I'll text first, email second. That being said, Scott, there are going to be times where for me to do the best job on your behalf, you and I will need to get ear to ear or face to face to really talk about something. If I text you and say, hey, we got to get on the phone, can I count on you to take that phone call so we can move you forward in this process?
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Yeah, that's the best
cool.
idea.
Finally, Scott, what expectations do you have of me as your agent?
Well, I expect you to communicate in a timely manner.
Okay.
Show me any property that comes up that's active on the market. You have access to off-market things, FSBOs. I really don't want to miss anything.
Yeah.
Again, maybe put me on alerts. Basically, I'm hoping that you can, give me an edge.
Okay.
In the process. With your experience, you came pretty well recommended, and shorten the distance for me. Clear communication. Be tell me really what you think. If you see a problem, rather than know up front.
Okay. So let me tell you what I heard. The first is you want someone that communicates pretty efficiently and pretty quickly. Make sure that we're giving you an edge, and that means getting you into any properties that may not necessarily be on the market, as well as leveraging our experience in today's market. And finally, kind of shooting you straight.
Yeah, that means the most.
Okay. So shoot you straight.
Yeah, I don't want to be surprised. Yeah.
Okay, copy that. So we're gonna, wherever we can, we're going to handle things that could go wrong before they actually happen. And I'll let you know when I am doing that, so you're aware that's happening for you.
Well, if there's anything, it doesn't have to be going wrong. Just if you think, if it's important, it's important to you, it's important to me. Just keep me in the loop.
Copy that. In terms of off-market properties, absolutely, we can look for sale by owners. Homes that haven't sold. Also, Scott, we're the top sales team in the city. We currently have 45 homes that we've listed that we haven't taken to market, and we're in the 7th largest brokerage in the city, and we're always sharing inventory. So there are many ways that I can find you off-market properties. Scott, this is the most undersupplied acute seller's market this country and this city have ever seen. And Scott, year to date, we've got over 100 people a home so far this year. So you're with a group that knows how to operate and set you up for success in today's market.
Right.
So Scott, we need a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, Bergen County. Walk-up attic is non-negotiable, must-have. Secondary is going to be that 2-car garage separate from the actual property, so that you can have a safe place to keep your power tools, maintain some harmony with the family, and have a place for you to kind of counterbalance after a busy week. Ideally, the next 8 to 12 weeks, it sounds like you'd like to start shopping sooner than later. And maybe we want to have you in your new home before the end of July. And the most important thing here is shooting you straight when we're working together, as well as making sure we can give you whatever edge that is, whether it's multiple offer strategies and techniques and tips that we know that set our clients up for success, finding you opportunities for off-market inventory, and finally, just being a good communicator, meaning early and often letting you know what's going on.
Yeah, that was well said.
Scott, if I can do all those things for you, will I have provided a 5-star experience?
For sure. You gave me a great deal and navigate me through with no issues. I'm good.
Okay. Well, a great deal is determined by the market, not by either you or me. And so we'll have to find out what that looks like in today's market. But what I'm going to do here is, Scott, I'm going to sign at the bottom of this piece of paper saying that I believe that I can meet or exceed these expectations. And what I'd like you to do, Scott, is sign right here saying that when I do meet or exceed those expectations, that I will have earned not only a 5-star review from you online, but also your future referrals. Fair enough?
I got to sign something?
Yes, sir. This is a commitment that if I do what I've committed to here, which is do all the things we just talked about, that you'll commit to writing a great review of us online, as well as giving us your future referrals when you know of someone that's thinking about making a move.
Well, what's your fee?
Well, we're going to get there in just a second.
I think I need to know what you're going to charge me before I can sign something.
Well, this is not obligating you to work with me, Scott. This is just saying that if I do a great job, I will have earned your referrals. And that's fair enough, isn't it?
It definitely is, but I just need to know what I'm working with. Nothing personal. You sound pretty efficient, and you're definitely obviously breaking through deals, but how does it work with if you find a place, what owe you?
Sure. Well, Scott, that's going to be the next thing that we talk about, and I'm glad that you asked. Let's pause for a second. New Jersey role players are a lot different than role players in any other city that I've ever done this presentation. I like it, actually. Let's pause there for a second.
You know why I asked that is because one of the agents wanted that information. They wanted to see the dynamic of how you're going to serve up the commission, so she knows how to handle it.
Yeah.
Like what I was looking at last night, you can approach it a bunch of different ways. It's so, how you break it down.
Yeah.
When in your market, can I just ask you a question? In your market, with your commission, right? What do you charge a buyer's agent, a buyer?
I appreciate your guys' role play, and every city is different. Not once has anyone ever pushed back on that ask that I just made. And we signed 497 of these last year. So I appreciate that you guys are being difficult, or not being difficult, that you want to make sure I'm working for it. After people sign that commitment, and they always do, because all they're committing to is a 5-star review online. That's all we're asking for. We then migrate. What's that?
Okay, then I misunderstood. So this is not the buyer's agreement.
This is not the buyer broker's agreement.
This is just a 5-star review.
All it's saying is, if I do this, you're going to give me a great review.
Yeah, no, I would do that.
Okay, so thank you for signing that, Scott.
Yeah.
Now we'll pause for real. What I've just done is Scott has agreed to make a micro commitment to me,
Yeah,
which
I
is
see what you're doing.
Right. He's agreed to a 5-star review. He's agreed to providing referrals, but more importantly, he's gotten comfortable with the idea of signing paperwork with me. And then I'll outro and make my transition into what you really want to see, which is this. Scott, I'm crystal clear on what a 5-star experience means to you. With your permission, I'd like to share with you a little bit about what we think makes a 5-star experience.
Sure.
And off I go into my value presentation.
Sure.
Now, at this point in time, I should have established warmth. Now I go into competence and value proposition. Okay, we can exit the highlighted mode if you don't mind, Elizabeth. And Deborah has a question. Deborah Schechter.
Hold on 1 second. Give me a moment.
Okay.
You got to get back to the... I think I misunderstood. I thought that this was about the buyer broker agreement class, not just a 5-star review. And that was my question. Where Scott was going is, because I don't see how I'm going to get, but this is not that buyer broker agreement class, correct?
Deborah, what I want you to know, what I want all of you guys to take from this, and apparently I have really communicated this poorly, and I owe you all an apology, is you don't sign a buyer broker agreement until you've earned somebody's trust. The only way you're going to earn somebody's trust is by doing a deep dive on what matters to them, which is them and their needs.
Understood.
And that is what this is really about. I just role played for you guys 5.8 times out of 100. When you do this process, you're going to get a signed buyer broker agreement. But this is the part that every single real estate agent wants to skip. And this is the part that you're not going to be able to skip anymore as a real estate agent. When people start shopping agents on the buy side, the way they have been shopping listing agents for years.
Understood. But
that's my message.
I'll have the question about when you get through that first part is how am I going to get, because I work with a lot of buyers and I'm not seeing how they're going to pay 10 or, and I'm really good. And I think I do the warm, I do everything. I establish rapport. They call me 10 years later. I'm not seeing how they're going to pay $10,000 or $20,000 to me, whatever the fee is at all. I think they'll go right to the listing agents and not work with a buyer's agent.
Well, I think you can, I'm sorry to say, I think you can work with, when you get to the next point, right? When you're discussing, like, say you have the buyer's agreement in front of you and it gives you the options how you can charge your fee. There's a lot of flex in that when you have the dialogue with them, depending on if the seller is offering a seller concession, or if the seller is offering a percentage, if they're flexible with the listing agent offering a percentage, I guess, of their fee, because the seller can't technically pay the fee, right? Right. I think that I watched a role play last night, and that whole
the seller can't pay the fee or doesn't have to pay the fee.
What's that?
The seller can't, I'm sorry to interrupt, cannot pay the fee or doesn't have to pay the fee?
I think it's now set based on the contract agreement. They can offer a concession out, and I think they can agree to pay the fee, but if I understand it right, it has to be negotiated not only on the
Can I jump in for a second? Peter graciously agreed to join us today, and I think he's got to leave in a bit, and I think he was getting right to the part where you sign that initial agreement to kind of get somebody in the habit of saying yes and signing an agreement, and now he's going to the part that you guys wanted to hear about. So let's kind of let him finish. But one thing I would say is we have someone on here that is getting 98% of his clients to sign this. Realtors are probably a little bit harder of an audience than a typical buyer. Buyers are not any different in Cincinnati than they are in New Jersey. If this works in Cincinnati, I guarantee you it works in New Jersey. They're not, we're not dropped down here from Mars. The people, the buyers in New Jersey are exactly the same as the buyers in Cincinnati, California, and Oklahoma. If it works there, it'll work here. So let's let Peter finish.
Thanks, Al. I appreciate that. I think we're actually at a good stopping point. At this point in time, guys, if you've done your job right and you've earned rapport and you've shown some empathy and you're in relationship, now is the time when you migrate into your buyer side equivalent of your 15-point listing presentation marketing plan. Now, as you talk about, you identify your competence. What is it that differentiates you from the other 200 and 197 agents on this call? What is it about your personal background? What is it about your sales team? What is it about your brokerage? What is it about your personal skills that you bring to the table? What programs, what MOFRs do you offer? An example would be in Cincinnati, it's hard for a first-time buyer to purchase a property because they're competing with cash investors. So we have a program where our clients can use my personal line of credit to write cash offers and compete. That's a huge value. People are willing to sign up for that. So we're going to do competence and we're going to do value. And that's the conversation you have afterwards, just like you have at a listing presentation. Now, I can't coach you guys on that because every single person on this call has to identify what is your value and what do you want to charge for it. Once you've made that presentation, you've demonstrated your competence, you've demonstrated what your value is, any specific offers that you bring. Now is when you make an offer. Now is when you bring up what your compensation is. And that compensation can be price, it can be a flat fee, it can be a percentage, it could be hourly, it could be a retainer plus a percentage. It's whatever you want to be. What we're going to do is we're going to provide three different commission options so consumers can choose which one they want to use with us. So different values, different compensation formats. So they feel like they have a choice. Well, they will have a choice in what is the best form of representation and value for them. So how's that for a short version of the second half? But that's easy. Every single one of us can create a listing presentation on the buy side, right? We're all going to have to do that. What really matters is, can you build a skill around earning somebody's trust? Because if you don't earn their trust, it doesn't matter what you tell them, whatever your buyer representation value is, they don't care if they don't think that you care about them.
I created a list because I thought that's what I had to do today in a role play. I just gave you an idea. I just kind of came up with, You know what,
Scott, before you do that, I was just thinking, since you did some research on, the specific questions that we may have here, and I know Peter's got to jump. If you can stay on, maybe after Peter jumps, you could stay on through what you prepared as well.
Sure.
Yeah, if there's, let me just share one slide here, Al, with the last 2 or 3 minutes I have. I'm not sure anybody will be interested after this role play, but I do send out a weekly email with a 2 to 5 minute video with tips and tricks for real estate agents on how to sell more real estate. That's the QR code if you'd like to register and sign up for the email. If you do, or when you do, include your email on there, and I will email a PDF of the slide deck that you can kind of peruse at your convenience.
Great. Thank you, Peter. Does anybody have any last questions before Peter jumps off? Peter, the feedback, I know we said that they may not join after this role play, but if you read through the chat, the feedback has been great. This is a difficult topic that, our agents are, have a lot of anxiety about, and nobody has all the answers. So you're just kind of seeing a little bit of the anxiety around the issue. People want a definitive answer, and I don't think anybody has one yet.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. We're all going to wait and see. It's going to be janky for about 18 months, Al. Yeah. What's that?
I said exactly, but I appreciate you coming on and taking on the tough New Jersey realtors. Every other role play from here on in will be much easier.
Thank you, Peter.
Guys, I think about New Jersey all the time. All right, thanks for your time. Sign up for it there. Drop your email address. I'll get you a copy of this newsletter no later than Monday at noon. Thanks, guys, for having me.
All right, thank you so much, Peter. We appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Scott, did you want to go through some of the
just
stuff that you learned?
Just a couple of minutes. Listen, my head got really huge on the screen. I feel for the guy, because what I looked into last night and did some homework, he was kind of building a story in his presentation, in his role play, because honestly, without taking the time to build rapport, understand what's important to them, repeat back to them that you're clear and understand what's important to them, they call it like tactical empathy. And then go into how you're going to add value and how you have a unique edge with what you do, with your track record. Like I just came up because I thought I was going head to head with Bruce. I know Bruce has been doing this for a while. So
Bruce is still here. Do you want to go head to head with Bruce now if you have a few minutes?
Yeah, I have like 21 minutes.
I mean, I guess it seems like the thing everyone wants to talk about and what Deborah's question is, do you have some thoughts on when you get, how you address the
how to serve up
percentage or the dollar amount that's in the agreement if you get pushback, what are you
I
around
do.
that?
Yeah, I do have some thoughts with it. But I just wrote some points down just to reference point, but I've been around for 30 years, so it's a little bit off. But if Bruce asked me, how I'm going to add value to him and why work with me, some kind of conversation like that. Or, like I said, like, hey, Bruce, we had it was a great conversation. I'm clear what's important to you about the attic space upstairs and the privacy element. Believe me, I got three girls, a couple of pets in my house. I need, I come home and sometimes I just need to be set aside, have my space. And I wanted to talk to you. You're probably thinking, with these new laws, I have to pay the fee, and what is this realtor really going to do for me that I can't do myself? Is that on your mind?
It is. It is.
It is, right? Yeah. So, and it's a fair question because it's a crazy time because it's always been one way for 100 years, and no one did anything wrong because we were always transparent and everything always worked out and everything was documented. But the sheer fact is, we have to follow these new rules. So I've been in the same local market for 30 years. So, and this is a very tight market. It's very low inventory, a lot of cash buyers, moves very quick, a lot quickly, often over ask. So, the way I can add value for you is first, I come from a background of production and facilitating. So I've closed over 500 sales in my career, 30 years. More importantly, I'm a local market expert. So what that means is that I have a team around me. So when we find you the right property, I'll know the true values of the property. And when we go through and we get your offer accepted, I have local people, attorneys, home inspectors. I often know the appraisers are in my phone.
Scott, talk to me, and I love that. It sounds like you care. And
yeah, and something I do.
I wouldn't work with somebody that didn't care.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that.
Explain a little bit regarding, a really good agent. I just came across. He was describing to me that he on average is at about a 97.2% for purchaser end list to sale price when in a market that's around 101%. He told me that, Bruce, listen, I'm saving you 4.8% on my negotiation skills and strategies coupled with the relationships in my marketplace. So ultimately, you're paying myself. I'm paying myself in this because I negotiate better than other agents. Can you quantify what your ratio is from a purchasing end that would be able to help me justify the logic in writing you a check?
Yeah. I basically I close on about 98% of the transactions that I'm involved in. And I have close relationships with all my professionals that I work with. So my communication is not only great with you, but it's exceptional through. I'm affiliated with a local mortgage company. I'm affiliated with a title company through my company. I can reach through, Bruce, a deal for you from the point we signed a contract through the title person to if there's any hiccup, any problems in your deal, I'll know because I'm copied along the way with my partners. And then I let you know. And that's an edge.
Incorporated from the fee side of this into the mortgage that I'm going to be
obtaining? It's great. It's a great question. That's a great question. They would Fannie Mae just recently passed an FHA. They just recently passed a rule, and this is cool, that if the seller offers a concession right now. Most likely what we're going to run into with the fee is that you may not have to pay a fee because, say for example, on the agreement, Bruce, right? I put down my fee is 2.5%, right? Now my goal and my intention for you
Is that
you don't have to pay any fee.
that you're charging?
I don't, if I do my job right and I get lucky, I'm going to get the seller to pay the fee. And the seller may do it in a couple of ways, right?
I got to break the role play here. I hear all the brokers of record, their ears perking up over this conversation right now. I said there's a way not to pay a fee. You're saying the seller's going to pay the fee?
Yeah,
there is a seller can pay the fee. The seller can pay the fee if it's negotiated into the contract.
Right. No, I know. Got it. I just
yeah. So I go to the seller, and the seller offers a concession, right? And to say the seller offers 2% concession, right? That covers, basically most of your fee right there. If you are going to be putting your fee into your mortgage, Fannie Mae just turned around and FHA for conventional, and they agreed that they're not going to count that towards a ceiling for closing credits. So you can do that. You can add it as long as your appraisal comes through.
So you're telling me that if I can get a property, I can purchase a property, have the fee paid by a concession on the seller's end?
That's correct.
Be out of my pocket.
Yeah. So what we would do, we're going to approach it, right? Our goal when we start with our agreement, right, is going to be like, I'm going to put, I'm going to work hard and I can go through a number of points to show you my added value, and I want to earn 2.5% from you if I do my job right and everything comes through. But I'm going to contact the seller's agent for any properties that you want to see, and I'm going to say, hey, are you guys offering any commissions to the other side? Is the listing agent offering anything out based on their full commission?
God, I value your time and your opinion. What would hold me back from just grabbing my smartphone right here and going on Zillow and just clicking 2 buttons and having somebody contact me?
That's a great question. Something, and it's going to be very tempting to do that right now.
Yeah.
You know what happens right now, Bruce? If you go directly to a seller, right? The seller's agent represents the seller. Any information, anything that you speak to that seller's agent about, they're obligated to pass that information on to the seller. You have no representation. You can't even, and if you go to set up.
I did one sale like 8 years ago, though. I know exactly what
I might not be getting paid from.
I know every bit of it.
Whole North then.
8 years ago, I think I remember the address.
And here's the crazy thing, Bruce. You ever think about this? If you have questions, right? And you have to call your attorney, your buyer's attorney, your attorney, and they charge for every time you call now, because they're probably going to switch their fee structure around, because if they now have to take on the load of taking all these calls, it's not going to be a flat fee anymore. Your legal fees are going to go right through the roof because you don't have an agent fielding the calls and being able to answer you. An experienced agent will be one of your straightforward questions to them because they've been around for a while. But more importantly, when you ask a good question to the agent, they more likely know where you're going with your next questions and the direction, and they can explain things to you in a way to educate you. And what you want is an advantage.
Sounds like you'll anticipate the curve.
You get no advantage by going directly, other than you have no representation. The seller's basically controlling the flow of the deal, and God forbid you get a bad attorney. You're going to wish when you're done you paid a fee.
The in-law and the addict's my attorney, so I'm hoping that they do well.
Yeah, the in-laws thought he wanted to stay in the attic. Okay.
So Scott, how can you help differentiate yourself as an agent? I've interviewed now 2 or 3 agents. Apparently, I'm one of the less than 30% that would do that. I'm not convinced by you. How can you convince me to work with you and pay you a difference of that? Because pretty straightforwardly, I don't want to come out of pocket for any money for this. I'm not used to this. I did one transaction 8 years ago, and I'm an expert in real estate.
No. One transaction. It's a great question. I've been doing this for 30 years, and uh, I have a passion for it. And more importantly, I care about people. I actually care too much sometimes because I actually go out of my way and I do more stuff for clients without even looking to get covered, because you know what I live for? To take pressure off your shoulders, take stress out of your life, and for you to have such a great experience that you cut my back. And the only way you make it, Bruce, 30 years in business and put 3 kids through college on full commission, you've got to treat people well. It's not what you say to people, right? Or what you do for people. It's how you made them feel. Now, knowing that I have such a high standard for myself, if I dropped the ball with you, it would bother me to no end. You know what I mean? So knowing that Bruce, knowing that I closed 500 transactions, I've had my own company. I've been basically Hall of Fame with Remax. You know, I basically, I have a little.
You were with Keller Williams.
Huh?
Thought you were with Keller Williams.
No, I am with Keller Williams. I was there right before. But more importantly, I'm the person you want in the foxhole. Because when people freak out and they get stressed in real estate, because they do, I calm down and get focused. The best thing you can do to me is mess with me, because then I get laser-like in, and then I just look for solutions. Wouldn't you want to have a solution-oriented agent that wants to get to the finish line? Now, put one element on top of it. I know all the top producers in the community. I've closed with all the major players from Hudson to Bergen County. If they see me entering a deal, Bruce.
If I asked you, if you want me to sign this agreement, if I asked you that, I'll sign this agreement, if I don't have to pay any money out of pocket, and if you're okay on the discrepancy of a listing agreement commission, that you don't ask me, that you go to a concession. If that concession is met, I'll do that. Otherwise, I'm not willing to move ahead.
You know, I'm pretty good with that. That's not a bad proposal. What I would say is that if we sign that type of agreement, if I don't get my total fee from the seller, I basically just agree to take what they're going to. I mean, the listing agent, I agree to take what they're going to give me. You have to do your part.
I'm not sure what
your part is. Any property that shows up and that you see out there, you make sure you get back to me with it. If you go into any open houses, you report back to me quickly. We become a team. We're attached at the hip, and we become. And you communicate really well with me. You stay loyal to me. You don't go off wandering around with other buyers while we're doing it. If we work together, you do your part. I may work with you with that agreement. But what my goal here, right, is for you to have a good experience. And if I can shave your fee down by getting it from the other side, it's a beautiful thing. Why wouldn't I do that? But at the same time, we have to work together. How's that sound? Let's just sign off. Let's just sign off. Trust me.
I feel that you're definitely genuine, Scott, and I do want to work with you. You seem competent, and I believe that you could find a house, and you've certainly done a tremendous amount of transactions. Yeah. I know the marketplace is different now, and everyone's kind of saying that, so I'm looking for where I can win in that difference. If you feel like you're willing to do that, I think that I will sign this agreement and work with you for a limited capacity, maybe on 10 houses or so, if that's okay.
I normally I usually sign an agreement for you like 90 days, something like that. I would have to think about that. You know, consider you don't break it down to like 10 houses that way. You know, but I wouldn't. What I would do for you is it would be no upfront fee. You know, we basically goal would be to get the fee covered, your fee covered on the other side, and within, say, what I'll do for you, Bruce, is within the first 30 days, if for some reason you're not happy with my service, but you can show me that I haven't done my service, I haven't been communicating with you, I haven't been sending you new listings, I haven't been following up with you, I've been taking you to places, and you've done all your part, you know, I'd let you out after 30 days, because my attitude is, if you know, after 30 days, if you know, for some reason it's not clicking, I'm good with that.
Okay, I would agree with that. That's fair.
Awesome.
Find me a great house, Scott. I appreciate it.
Right. Nice. Sounds like we got the agreement signed. Thanks to both of you. I'd be curious to see if any of the brokers of record have any comment on this? Was that, was it conversation how you would be teaching it in your class? Do you have any pointers or tips? Sally, Joyce, Judith, anything to share?
Good job, Bruce.
Thank you. Likewise, Scott. The only thing I think I would add in is some more fluidity, and I like the logic reason. It's a lot of the disc personality, understanding who you're going into the appointment with prior to try to get those triggers so you can understand how to make sure that you relate and comprehend. But the list to sale price on the purchaser's end, if you can quantify and show you negotiate better, then you're showing a value. Like the way that I see Al when he goes into appointments, you show a value of what's going on with leadership and how that quantifies to that person.
Yeah,
that person only cares about that person.
It's a great point.
All these thousands, and it becomes more like, in essence, you're not paying it. It's kind of like, and you get this value, and this, and that.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I would get for a logical person. They're going to want to see that.
Yeah, I'm listening to a great book now called Never Split the Difference by Scott Chris Vaughn. And the gentleman that was before us, he set up his whole presentation to follow that thought process to build rapport, show value. And the reason why he's so successful, and we're just not conditioned for it yet, is because he builds it up over like a 30, 40-minute presentation that you just get such a comfort level, because they use stats. They use absorption ratio, kind of like what you're talking, absorption calculator. Yeah. They're using, so by the time you get to the point with the buyer's agreement, so people they'll sign it because they know what they're doing, and you got their back. We didn't really let him get to his end game there, because we were like, just tell us how to say it to get our fee. But that's something we should be doing in the office, because I think the fear a lot of people are having on this Zoom call is when a lot of us are not having these conversations, and the clock is ticking, and we're getting closer to July, and everyone's going to panic. And when that happens in July, what's going to be scary is there going to be people that are going to come out in different approaches for business. People are going to adjust differently, and it could be pretty hectic in July to be learning on the shoot, everything right there. It's better to start doing it now, because otherwise it could be a little scary there.
Yeah, that makes sense. We are going to have to wind this down. I don't think we have any of the brokers still with us. We outlasted them. I was curious to see what they thought. They've been teaching a lot of classes on this, just to see how we're doing with the language. Somebody had thrown out that we're talking about numbers and percentages in some way that we're not supposed to. I kind of missed that. Was there anything that anyone feels that we were talking about that we shouldn't?
I mean, what I was listening to on a video last night at a role play is similar. I guess my question is, who's offering the fee out on the seller side? Is it the listing agent that's offering out to the buyer's agent? I mean, the seller's offering out the seller concession, right? So there could be money in there. But
Scott, I'm sorry, it's Gina. I don't think so. On the seller's end of it, you can't call it it's not a commission. It's a concession.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
So you would write it in the contract. When you present your buyer's contract,
it's in the contract. That's correct. That's what I learned last night.
Yeah.
Everything becomes negotiated in the contract, so it's no more negotiated in the listing. It's in the contract.
Correct.
But the seller can offer out a concession, right?
Correct.
And so that concession could be a certain. It's a total sum number. It's not anything is not. If I understand it right, it's not itemized to a commission. It could be just towards overall closing cost. I think if I understand that. So that's the kind of conversation we just have to, understand how to have. But kind of what I was doing with Bruce saying, we're going to try to get it on the other end, and by putting it in the contract, Honestly, that's what's going to happen. This whole thing of it was like COVID. Who said it when we had COVID and we all freaked out, and then everything got normal, got easier in like a month. This whole thing is going to play itself out and flush itself out faster than you think. Because my conversation with a seller, when I go there for a listing, I'm going to go in 10 minutes. It's in his best interest to offer something out, and I'm going to go with a list of all the properties. I print out all the full copies, and I'm going to show each seller that's offering out a commission to the buyer's agent. So it's not like they're isolated. They'll be more isolated if they don't. So all these people will go to those other properties.
Can I throw something out there too? Just as a general comment, in commercial, this rule has been applied since commercial's inception. Negotiating a purchaser fee has always been on the table.
Yeah.
It's just a different way. It's almost unifying everything, from residential and commercial as well, because it's always put on the contract, similar to exactly what you're describing.
You're absolutely right. Commercial's done that for years. It's going to be, we have to just get people to, we're changing the way things have been done for at least the past 20 years, so that it's a learning curve. That's all it is.
Well said.
I mean, my question I have for a broker
what is everybody's feeling? What's going on out there while we have all these people with the sellers? Are they pushing back on compensating the buyers? Because, as I think about this, as long as the sellers are still compensating the buyers, and this is less of an issue. But what's going on these listing presentations? Are the sellers pushing back?
I haven't seen anyone push back.
It becomes a little tumultuous when in a listing, like let's say in the commercial world, where let's say you have a listing and it expires, or let's say that it's an off-market client, somebody cuts out in the middle, and then all of a sudden it becomes a discrepancy in the percentages and the commissions. That's the only time I've ever seen difficulty.
In general, we have not seen most people pushing back, and we are continuing to let people know that this is the most important marketing tool that they have to get buyers in their house and multiple offers. However, with that said, we do have one seller who is an attorney who's been following the case closely and is insistent on testing it to see if he puts out zero commission, what type of offers will he get. I suspect and expect that the buyer's agents will simply just write something in and want him to pay it anyway.
Yeah.
Or they won't show the property. We'll find out soon.
Yeah, there's a property in Westwood that an agent said, "Here we go," and it's at 0% on the MLS.
My question is,
Scott did that before he got on this call. He didn't realize, now that he learned all this stuff, he's not going to do it again.
Yeah, my question is if we
Joyce is back on. Joyce, did you have any thoughts on this discussion?
I think the one thing and it's similar to what I spoke about in Woodcliff Lake this week, is that the one thing from the NAR agreement and the proposed settlement that NAR had is, yes, you're all going to need to have an exclusive buyer agency agreement with your buyers. The other thing was that they did not say, and it's not part of their agreement, that cooperative compensation is going away.
Yeah.
In that agreement, it said cooperative compensation can't be listed in the MLS. They've never said that the seller that you can't continue business as usual as the seller permitting the listing agent to share a portion of their commission out to the buyer's agents, because we all know that that's the best way for them to get the most eyes on the property. It's going to become now that you're just not going to have that commission on the bottom of the MLS sheet.
You can put it in the agent remarks. You can put the commission in the agent remarks.
I don't believe that we're waiting on, and I think Judith had to get off, but the reason that the NAR agreement was preliminarily accepted by the judge in the Sitzer Burnett case was that it now allows the MLSs to get their wheels in motion on the changes that they're going to make. The NAR agreement was clear that cooperative compensation had to come off the MLS.
Yes, that's correct.
So we don't know where it's going to be or how you're going to find that out. But as of right now, it is still business as usual, the way you've been doing your real estate transactions and offering out cooperative compensation.
It can be listed on the company website. So I think, at a minimum,
it can be on the company
what
website. You
we're
are
going to
correct,
do
Al.
is create one website for BCP where you can see all of our cooperative
No, you
commissions.
can't do that either. You can't put it on a site that has IDX either, because it's tied to the MLS.
You can put it on. I mean, from what I understand, that's what Gary Keller just talked about last week in his Zoom, that you can put it on the company website, and Keller Williams in general is going to be doing that, and each individual market center should do that. So I don't know where you're saying it's in the NAR settlement that you can't put it on your website.
No, the NAR settlement just said it can't be on the MLS.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about.
But the question is, where does the MLS pull? Like the MLS, I'm sorry, like the internet pulls from certain IDXs. Does it pull from our Keller site at all or no?
The MLS doesn't know.
Not the
Keller,
MLS, but yeah.
Our site pulls from the MLS, so it's not going to pull compensation. But we're very fortunate, and the same thing I said to the agents in Woodcliff Lake. We are very fortunate that one of our brokers in Judith, not only is she on the board of the Greater Bergen board of our board, she's also on the board with the MLS. So we're going to know as soon as their attorneys get it settled, we'll know about it. Plus the brokers talk about this almost on a weekly basis now.
So I think Cheryl said she's getting some pushback. I don't know if you want to unmute, Cheryl, and share your. And again, if anybody needs to jump off, this is well over time. And the other thing I wanted to say, if anybody is looking at Bruce and Scott and feeling like it wasn't the most smooth role play ever, like nobody knows all the answers here. This is brand new. So it takes a lot of guts to kind of jump on here and kind of muddle through it. It's new to everybody. And this is the only way we're going to learn it is, trial and error and going through this. It may not be pretty right now, but if we have a couple months of it not being pretty, by the time this rule is in effect, we should have it down. So I give you guys a ton of credit. Cheryl, did you want to say something?
Well, I got to jump. I'll see you soon.
One thing that I noticed when we were doing the role play was the spouse had a lot to say about what was going to benefit him. And what I'm thinking is, should we be talking to both? If there's if there's more than one decision maker, talk to both decision makers at the same time, or make an appointment, and then get the feedback from both, and then both sign. Because what happens if one signs and makes an agreement and the other one says, oh no, I'm working with somebody else because I don't like the way that's going?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I think that's preferable. I wouldn't, if you can only meet with one or the other, I wouldn't let that stop you from having the meeting, but it's always preferable. I don't think that that's any different now than it ever was before. You always want all the decision makers in the room.
But I would think both need to sign the buyer's agency agreement because the commission's coming from both of them during the training.
Yeah, they both need to sign, but I'm saying if you can get a meeting with only the husband or only the wife, I wouldn't not take that meeting, because that's still some kind of incremental commitment. If you can get in front of them, it's better than not having the meeting.
Right.
Quick question, Al, and then I have to jump off. But where are we as far as the state mandate that we can't get paid by both the buyer and the seller in a dual agency? Because now that we're actually seeing 0% payouts, and I don't know if that Westwood one is a Keller or not, how are we going about it? Because I can have a buyer's agency agreement signed, but if I'm showing a Keller Williams listing that's paying out 0, how would I go about getting my pay?
I see that Joyce unmuted. I'm hoping she has a better answer than I do. I don't think that there is a definitive answer there yet, or not.
They're still working on it, Al. There's been obviously increased push to the State Real Estate Commission to to figure that out, especially in light of the mandate that's going to come down for exclusive buyer agency agreements. But right now it's not. The EBA that Najjar has on there that they just released, that they Najjar did a great training session on, and it's still available. If anybody goes on Najjar, they can still view that. One of the boxes that can be checked off is that in the event that there is a dual commission, a dual agency, that the compensation for the buyer's agent would then be put into the contract and paid from the selling side because of that law.
I do know, the one thing I do know is every different involved constituency has said it doesn't make sense and it needs to change. So I think it's just hopefully a matter of time. There's nobody that's saying that makes sense. That in this new era that rule's got to be changed. But when it's going to be changed, I don't think we know yet. But we lost our 2 role players, and we're at 3:40 almost. So I think it's about time to wrap it up. Did anybody have any? Joyce, thanks so much for staying on and answering those questions. I really appreciate it. Anyone have any questions or anything they want to add or ask before we wrap it up? All right. And again, I think we have to be willing to have some conversations that are not perfect and not smooth and where we don't have all the answers, but it's the only way we get to the answer. So some of these are going to be a little disjointed, but it's better than not doing it at all. So just kind of bear with us. All right, everybody, thanks for staying on so long. Have a great weekend. Appreciate you.